I'm Gaz, and this is Let's Play Suzerain. This is a political decision-making, text-based kind of game thing. From what I have seen, it is very in-depth, so there's going to be probably a little bit more slowness to this than other games, but we'll go ahead and begin. I've played the first year, which takes a while in and of itself. You are my enslavement and my freedom. You are my flesh burning like a raw summer night. You are my country. "1908, Kingdom of Sordland. You opened your eyes to this world. You came from a middle-income family in the city of Holsword. Your parents named you Anton. As the only child of a diligent civil servant, you lived quite an ordinary childhood. Life was not bad. You were lucky enough to attend a well-known public school. But frequent fights broke out at the Rayne family home. These made you feel uneasy. The years passed. September 9th, 1923. During a history class at school, the bell started to ring unexpectedly. You heard a loud commotion outside. As everyone tried to figure out what was going on, the principal announced the historic revolution. The kingdom was no more. The Republic of Sordland was born. I did not fully understand. 1926. After graduating, you passed the university exams with high marks. You had the opportunity to choose between several studies. You chose law, economics, or history. I personally have a history degree, so let's do that. History at the Dare University of Culture. During the first year, you attended a lecture with David Vichy. He was a well-known diplomat from the Foreign Ministry and son of the President. After observing the hall in silence, he explained why realpolitik is important for a successful foreign policy. He argued that a strategy based on practical and material factors would be much more successful in reaching Sordland's ambitions. Yeah, you agree in principle. May 22nd, 1927. Soldiers entered the campus in the evening ahead of the first election. Many were in shock as the uniformed men created a security cordon and started arresting the teachers. A group of students started gathering in protest, along with your best friend, Peter Vectern. You decided to protest with the students. One of the officers made a loud announcement that echoed through the campus. General Lutheran declared martial law in order to restore the administration. Please stand back and disperse to your rooms. He joined the students that slowly marched toward the large group of soldiers. Suddenly, the soldiers charged. A student fell and was trampled as everybody started running away. Probably best to run off in this case. Unlike the others, you were lucky to escape. It was a gloomy year. October 10th. The coup split the students into two groups and caused frequent fights. Torture and imprisonment of any opposing voice became a daily routine in Dare. You didn't want to stay idle and decided to join political debate group? Sure. The dozens of debates helped you hone your oratory skills, while also helping you grow your network. Even though the debates were pretty heated between different groups, you all grew from sharing ideas. In one of the meetings, Peter introduced you to one of his friends, Monica, who was a volunteer for the Swordish League of Women. You were immediately attracted to... I feel like having an intelligent wife is going to be helpful here. The politically charged environment led you to join the Red Youth, the Socialists, join the Young Swords, the Nationalists, or stay away from political organizations. We're going to go with the Red Youth. We're young and idealistic. June 2nd, 1928. The radio relayed that the communist General Ricard surrounded Lutheran and his troops, demanding their surrender. They refused, and heavy fighting broke out across the country. You just couldn't believe it. The army was fighting amongst themselves. Sordland plunged into chaos. Ricard's sudden attack caused more instability in the country, but compared to fascist Lutheran, he was a real socialist. This convinced you to participate in a support march. You were chanting freedom, equality, and solidarity. You were marching under the protection of Ricard's soldiers. Students opposing the coup gathered a few hundred meters in front of you. Many nationalists were among them. You knew something was going to happen. Let's stay. There was a massive clash between the two sides. Soldiers began to beat the students. Tanks started rolling forward. In this chaotic moment, you saw a young girl about to get run over by a tank. We'll run to save. But you couldn't reach her in time, and you never forgot her face. Clashes escalated into a full-blown civil war. The horrors made you isolate yourself for a while. Monica helped you cope, and love grew between the two of you. However, it was a difficult time for love. The chaos must end. 1929, the Republic of Sordland. The charismatic colonel, Tarquin Soll, orchestrated a sudden coup and brought an end to the chaos. He wrote a new constitution and restored stability. The people saw him as a savior. He formed the United Sordland Party and ran as a presidential candidate in the very first elections. You did not vote. USP won the election by a large majority. After graduation, you kept seeing Monica and noticed her interest to marry. However, a letter arrived from the military calling you to fulfill your compulsory service. It was time to serve your national duty. February 1930, Bergia region. A devastating civil war broke out in the neighboring country of Walen. A distinguished major, Josef Lancia, ordered you to lead your squad on a border patrol mission. It was a very cold winter night when you began marching out of the gun-ridden outpost. You could see your breath. After several hours of marching through the snowy hills, distant noises were heard. Visibility was too low to confirm the source. The squad crawled forward in formation and found a spot to observe. A group of refugees had made it beyond the border fence. You let them slip through. After the patrol, Major Lancia arrived with anger and immediately relieved you of your command, calling you a disappointment. One of your squad members had reported your actions. After several months of scrubbing the floors as a punishment, your duties ended and you went back to civilian life. 1931, you and Monica decided to share your lives together. After receiving the blessing of her parents, a ceremony was held in Holsword. I'd better learn that word there because that's the capital city. During the same year, you worked hard to secure a high-paying job at the governing United Sordland Party. It was much more difficult to start your career on a good foot because of the refugee incident, but you still managed. It was the best opportunity to change the country for the better. You became the foreign policy assistant to one of the more experienced members of Assembly. You worked long and hard, staying late at work, reviewing dozens of foreign policy plans. You were climbing the ladder. September 1933. Soll strengthened the Republic by removing the institutions and symbols of the former kingdom from society. Things were also looking up for the country as the massive economic boom continued and people were the happiest they had been in a decade. Election time came, and it was decided. President Tarquin Soll was elected once more. 1934. The preparation of the most comprehensive trade agreement in Magnolia was occupying most of your personal time, but your significant contribution to the trade talks triggered an invitation to meet President Tarquin Soll himself, who offered you a key position. You were to become the youngest member of Assembly. You accepted right away. 1938. As the youngest MP, it was difficult to connect with the influential inner circle. You needed allies, so you brought Peter as your right-hand man. The birth of your son Frank provided a brief moment of joy and relief. You sacrificed work to spend time with your family. 1941. During your absence, Peter found trustworthy contacts and strengthened your position in the party. At the same time, President Soll increased his authority over the years. His growing ego started to cause strife within the party. The cracks began to show. His fifth election win. 1945, President Soll barely secured a majority in the election against the opposition leader. Over the past year, people were growing discontent with corruption and the worsening quality of life. Meanwhile, calls for a united Sordland Party Congress became louder as a leadership struggle started to brew. You joined the internal opposition. You gave your support to Ewald Alfonso, a reformist and talented business magnate who was the main contender for party leadership. Meanwhile, in a desperate effort to secure votes before the Congress, President Soll was meeting party members one by one, but he didn't approach you. August 1946, the Party Congress was nothing short of impressive. The banners of United Sordland were decorating every possible spot. Thousands of influential political figures, lobbyists, and benefactors gathered for this turning point. Voting for the party leadership began. You voted for Alfonso. September 1st. The efforts bore fruit as the contentious leadership vote was won by Ewald Alfonso. During the Congress, Soll announced his retirement from politics. You knew the structure he had established was to stay. The country had become increasingly authoritarian. You were happy that Soll was finally leaving. A month later, your daughter was born. Monica named her Diana. She motivated you during a tumultuous period in the party. The general elections were approaching. The United Sordland Party was under new leadership of Ewald Alfonso. You joined the party effort and campaigned for him. 1949. During the general elections, the main opposition leader was embroiled in a sex scandal with his secretary, diminishing their chances. The extensive privatization program proposed by Alfonso secured an election victory for the United Sordland Party. Over the next years, you did your best to make Sordland a better place. The presidency of Ewald Alfonso, 1951, saw many bold reforms, but was followed by a serious economic recession. The other parties announced their bids in the 53 election, but the unfair system hampered all opposition efforts to win. You were worried about the economic recession. Together with Peter, your presence in the USP grew and you became the face of a new wing in the party. You effectively took over the leadership of Alfonso as Alfonso lost control of the country. The moment to make a move had come. You advised Alfonso to step down. January 1953. He didn't take your advice seriously and started to reshuffle his cabinet, but most of his inner circle abandoned him. Your diplomatic attitude made the party vote you in as the leader. Following this, you announced that you would be running for president in the general election with Peter as your running mate. It was your turn. After visiting every city and town during the campaign, you made a speech on television. You promised to enact democratic reforms. The people are tired of empty promises. We need fundamental change in our institutions and government. A solid and transparent democracy awaits us. Brothers and sisters, a new constitution and a new age is upon us. The broadcast ended. November 5th, 1953. On Election Day, millions went out to cast their votes. It was time to face the truth. Chapter 1. President Rayne. Okay. What do we got here? Yeah, the good old pencil stash. Go with that. Sordland first, huh? Oh, the default's alright. Yeah, we'll go with black glass. In the background, yeah, we'll do Anton Rayne, 4th President of Sordland. As Anton Rayne, you have made many promises to the people of Sordland in order to gain their votes. They must be considered very carefully. The economy. Sordland's economy had been based on a planned doctrine since its formation until the former president, Evald Alfonso, enacted free market reforms. Now the country finds itself in between two different economic systems. Okay, we'll go with free market for this one. Diplomacy. The intensifying global rivalry between capitalist Arcasia in the west and communist United Contana in the east is opening new diplomatic possibilities. Sordland could take steps to align itself closer to one. But not right now. We'll pick neither. Immigration. In recent years, Blutish, Wezek, and Agnolian immigrants flocked to Sordland due to relaxed immigration laws enacted by Alfonso. As a result, tensions in between Swords and the immigrants have become increasing. We will keep it relaxed. Term focus. We've also promised to focus on a certain extensive subject within our first term. The people expect us to resolve the negative situations within this topic while providing an overall improvement to the related policies. Health. Since the 1940s, the difference of service quality between urban and rural hospitals has been getting increasingly worse, and the average life expectancy has dropped significantly. Education. Lack of schools, teachers, and even classroom equipment in certain areas causes massive gaps in the previously robust education system. Law enforcement. Increased crime is pushing law enforcement to their limits, while judges at courts deal with the huge and expanding backlog of legal cases. The military. The military protects the country from hostile threats, and while some see it as a massive financial burden, others argue it is a critical deterrent. Well, right now, keeping people healthy and whole, I think, is the way to go. We need to focus on the basics, and the basics of any society and civilization are your basic needs. Then we can get education in, which between these two will hopefully help alleviate the law enforcement problem. And game-wise, I don't think we have to worry about this for a while, as long as we don't piss off the neighbors. So we'll do this. Your promises will be remembered, and they will have consequences. Alright. 2 weeks have passed since we won the election, and now I was about to be sworn in as the 4th President of Sordland. Thousands were watching the inauguration ceremony and cheering my name, Anton Rayne. The die was cast. And there my story began. In the distance, the Maroon Palace stood on top of the famous Hill of Pride. I had no way of knowing what future awaited me there. So you see these blue terms, you can click on them, and they will open the codex, which gives you a lot of history. There is a lot of information in this game, whether it is places, people, the political organizations, everything has more and more to drill down deep into. So this is, like I said, is going to be a very slow game. I looked at my family. My son and daughter, Frank and Diana, were next to Monica, my wife. Her eyes were glimmering with pride. Then I turned towards the key people who made it all possible. Of course, each individual was promised an important position in my cabinet. As my thoughts slowly faded away, the reality of the situation dawned on me. Orso Hawker, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, was waiting for me. The time for the oath has come. I am ready. Please repeat after me. I do solemnly swear. I do solemnly swear that I will respectfully execute the office of the President of Sordland, and to do the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the people and the Constitution of the Republic of Sordland. You may now deliver your inauguration speech, Mr. President. So these actually, I'm not sure exactly what they do, but there are combative answers, there are more humble answers, and there's just very to-the-point, terse answers, and I think they all have some impact upon relations with people. So, let's just be humble while we're in front of the cameras. Brothers and sisters, the crowd looked very eager to listen to me. Change and hope? The current dire situation. I guess we could expound upon that and then offer hope in the last half, right? We are enduring economic hardship like never before, and today our nation is falling apart. Our people, we, suffer in this dire situation. Our capability. Our workers are no less productive than a decade ago. Our capable minds are no less inventive. Our products and services no less requested than they were last week, last month, or last year. So, we are running, or ran anyway, on constitutional reform. So, poking at that, I suppose, would be a first start. Because this is just sort of empty platitudes. So this is giving something concrete. First, we must rewrite our broken Constitution from 1929. Change now, not in the next decade or years, but today. Hundreds of thousands cheered. They were shouting my name in unison. I felt the responsibility, the power, and the burden all at the same time. Wave. I waved at the crowd, which made the crowd cheer louder. I took a long look at the people of Sordland to burn this moment into my memory. One of the presidential guards came by to notify that it was time to leave. I made my way to the leading car in the motorcade. The presidential state car was a jet-black Cadillac with flags of Sordland above the front headlights. Next to it, a man was holding the door. Sergei Volkner. Hello, Mr. President. Still under the effect of the speech I made, hearing my new title made me smile. If you allow me to introduce myself, I am Sergei, your new driver. Nice to meet you, Sergei. It is an honor. He respectfully bowed his head before opening the car door and gesturing inside. I entered the car. We will be heading towards the palace. The motorcade began to move. On the way, Sergei proceeded to explain his duties as the driver. As minutes passed by, I found myself lost in thoughts again, barely paying attention to what he was saying. He suddenly made a gesture towards the now closer palace. Isn't it a beauty? The Maroon Palace. We can look at the Maroon Palace. The Maroon Palace is where the executive branch of the Swedish government is situated. It was constructed to serve as the summer residence of Albrecht Renan, but quickly became a structure of political importance. The turning point was when the Kingdom of Sordland was announced from the balcony of the palace, reflecting the shift of government power from Ellery to Holsword during the transition period. The Maroon Palace received its name for the maroon painted exterior walls. It has 100 rooms and several wings housing different branches of executive government. Underneath the structure is a highly secure situation room where the president is safe from any danger and evaluates security crises. He was right. Sunlight glinted off the palace's many maroon-colored domes. It was so bright I had to look away. Every time I look at it, I am reminded of my duty to this nation. So do I, Sergei. It is the beating heart of the nation, after all. Well said, Mr. President. The car drove past the majestic gates, continued uphill to the entrance, and stopped in front of the doors. Sergei got out of the car and opened the door for me. Have a great day, Mr. President. Amorgna Weskore. Sure. I'm not sure what language we actually speak in Sordland. He referred to the famous Swordish phrase from the times of revolution. Amorgna Weskore, Vectern Sista, which means, morning will come, victory is close. We could finish off the phrase, I guess? Sure. I made my way upstairs through the extravagant corridors of the palace. Marble and engraved wooden finishes decorated the interior. My footsteps echoed in the colossal halls. The guards bowed their heads in respect as I opened the massive doors to my new office. Alright. So, there's a ton of information. I cannot emphasize this enough. There is a ton of information. Not only is there the codex, but then you see everywhere on the map will all have these little things poking up. Some of these are like quests and events and things that push the story, and the rest is just like status stuff. So here, for example, in Lesbia, we can read the report. Congratulations from the Prime Minister Alvarez. Prime Minister Alvarez congratulated you for the results and spoke about his hopes to have beneficial partnership deals in the future. He sent his best wishes to the Sordish people and warned us about the threats of the encroaching Millennialist influence of United Cortana from the east, emphasizing the importance of unity in our continent, Mercopa. So we can see here a little bit more about him. He is a politician and business magnate, so it gives you a good hint of who they are and what they're all about, probably the best ways to approach them diplomatically. Ideologies like Millennialism, the communist theory advocated by the Kantanin revolutionary Leon Maleyev. God, there is so much here. I don't know that I'll do it all on camera. I may read a lot of this stuff on my own and then find what's pertinent and put it into an episode. Wellen. Read the report from Wellen. Congratulations from President Smolak. President Smolak sent his congratulations on the election victory and wished for cooperative futures between Wellen and Sordland, signaling a desire to normalize diplomatic situations between the two countries. So that kind of tells you what's important about them. We will come back to that. That is cities on our own. We did not get anything from Rumburg. But Agnolia, congratulations from Prime Minister Van Hoorten. Congratulated us on the election, praised our party's stance on a just and transparent election, signaled his wishes to continue the trade partnership between our countries as equal partners as opposed to earlier trade deals which he believes gave Sordland unfair advantages. So Van Hoorten here currently serves as Prime Minister, youngest politician to hold his office, became leader of the Democratic Union. Okay. Staunch promoter of privatization and relaxed immigration laws. So you can kind of tell what our political leanings will align with, who to gain some help from, and also who we share borders with, who might be useful if we ever have problems with other neighbors. Volksland. Chancellor Hegel sent his congratulations on your great victory and wished for close cooperation between countries in the future. He signaled concessions from Volksland in case of a promising trade deal, so he's eager to trade. He also congratulated the Sordish democracy for successful elections and warned us about the threat of Arcasia's growing influence in eastern Mercopa. Volksland is a socialist republic. He is a communist revolutionary, so obviously he is going to be opposed to Arcasia, who I guess are the analog of the United States in this game. And then, of course, we also have news. Let's read the newspapers. Rayne emphasized Sordland's dire situation. President Anton Rayne has been sworn into duty in a great ceremony in Holsord. Thousands have attended the ceremony where Rayne has met with his supporters for the first time after his election. In his inauguration, Rayne spoke about the current dire situation, bringing focus on the suffering of the Sordish people. We are enduring economic hardship like never before, and today our nation is falling apart, said the new president before he went on to start his first day in the Maroon Palace. Not perhaps the most uplifting choice of words I guess I could have chosen for my opening speech. Sordland today. The new president has been sworn into office by Chief Justice Orso Hawker. Another great win for the USP and Anton Rayne, who managed to get 37% of the general vote. Orso Hawker here, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. He joined the USP after the coup. Okay. He had close ties to the former president, Soll, who that we were opposed to. Highly controversial policies of Soll, including the approval of security package laws, ruling that the Blutish Freedom Party entering the elections was unconstitutional. What did the Blutish Freedom Party? They were banned from politics with their connections to the Freedom Front. People living in southern Sordland campaigned heavily for minority rights. They were expected to be elected as the main opposition party until they were cancelled. Militant and political organizations based on Blutish regions. Oh my god, there's so much history here, really. But anyway, it all gives you flavor to sort of know the backgrounds and the leanings of these people. This is a political simulator. being able to finagle people is going to be a major part of doing this right, I feel. Which, as a personally antisocial person who, in my old age, can stand people less and less, and I have a shorter and shorter patience and temper, I don't know how well that's going to go, but we're going to try our best. The first congratulations came from Kesaro Kibner of the National Front Party. Far-right politics, okay? The runner-up of the general vote, the PFJP, People's Freedom and Justice Party, did not concede until the last minute, but the results were clear since several hours in. Thousands of supporters gathered in the streets of Holsord chanting campaign slogans, waving flags, and displaying USP party banners to display unwavering support for the newly elected president. The public mood is very positive in the capital from all accounts on the ground. The city is celebrating that a Holsordian has become president of Sordland. Okay. Lakeven Times. The new assembly begins duty. President Rayne has been elected 44th president of Sordland in the 7th Sordish elections. The United Sordland Party has won the election on Sunday with just over 37% of the vote, when Franz Richter, leader of the People's Freedom and Justice Party, could gain just over 20%. While Franz Richter, Kesaro Kibner, head of the right-wing National Front Party, is in third place with 11%. The Communist Party and Workers' Party both won below 10%, failing to pass 10% election threshold. The new term begins with the opposition of PFJP and the NFP under the USP government. The unrepresented votes below the threshold resulted in the USP taking 52% of the seats of the GNA, or the Grand National Assembly, giving them the law-making power. The new seat numbers have been finalized as follows: the USP 130, PFJP 70, and the NFP 40, with independents only 10 seats. We did run on election fairness and constitutional reform as well. The radical. Another USP president. How many times will people fall for the same trap? We've seen this before with Colonel Soll, who supposedly saved this country and brought stability in times of chaos. His stability, however, meant a life of oppression. Any opposing voices were silenced, and many were persecuted. Next was Alfonso, who was elected as the liberal reformer to bring change to the USP in Sordland. Seeing his unfortunate inability, his own cabinet resigned. As the third USP candidate becomes president, it is high time to realize that real change won't come from their party. Economists. Restructure the infrastructure? After the recent successful mega-infrastructure projects from United Cantona and Volksland, the world is warming up to the idea as a source of growth and employment. But is there any truth to this success? Our investment analysis indicates infrastructure investments can be fruitful in the short term, but even more so in the long term, especially if they focus on linking economic nodes that business logistics depend on. Everything here is important. I know this because this is one of the first issues that gets brought up. What should we do first? And we can focus on an infrastructure project. This is, however, the first step. The crux of the matter is diversification of investment where the government supports employment and growth. It is key to help private businesses with government contracts, tax breaks, and political support in order to create a self-sufficient and dynamic economy. The government's role in Sordland should be to integrate the world economy and reap the benefits of global trade. Economic growth and income inequality in this country won't be fixed otherwise. But first, we kind of need to work on our base problems at home. If our people at home aren't getting their needs fulfilled with our own basic services and infrastructure, then nothing from the outside is going to help. End Solonomics. A new era begins for Sordland, and it holds many economic questions that will need to be answered by President Rayne. Our top economic analysts, with consultation from the National Business Council, have released a comprehensive report on the performance of the past 20 years. A certain section of the report stands out. The last two 4-year plans of the plan doctrine create a budget deficit and a clear reduction of industrial production output. This was specifically due to mismanagement and inefficient bureaucracy. The year-on-year growth, budget balance, and production index values indicate that the two most productive consecutive years had been when privatization programs of Alfonso began in 1949. Our editorial team, with the help of experts like Mikhail Avin and Edith Agnock, and we can look at them and even they have their own Wikipedia page, have come to the conclusion that the recession was not actually caused by Alfonso's bold privatization program, but by the drastic obstructions of state executives hindering the plan. President Rayne must take the advice of planned economy proponents around him with a pinch of salt, otherwise he could find himself in the same spot as Tarquin Soll in the mid-40s. Alright, let's look at problems locally here. We will not be getting into our first issue this episode. It's already gone on long enough. Arvory suffers from a lack of investment. They are a port city. The mayor of Arvory, Eric Neal, he does not have a page, reports a lack of adequate infrastructure around Arvory, which seriously undermines the attractiveness of Arvory's investment climate. Foreign investors, particularly from Agnolia, are becoming hesitant to invest in the city. Meanwhile, according to data published by the National Business Council, around 19% of the company's total expenditures in Agenland absorbed by logistics costs. There we go again. Logistics are important, while in peer regions this figure is below 10%. Read the report from Laren, low production. The report calls attention to the alarmingly low levels of productivity growth in the region of Agenland, where there are also high rates of food insecurity, malnutrition, and rural poverty in inner parts of the region. So yeah, we can see why this problem exists. Excuse me. It's not particularly landlocked. It's got a few cities on waterways. In fact, everything looks like it's on a waterway. But it has no rail and it has no highway, as indicated by these. So, like, this is rural bumpkin-land. In fact, we can click on Agenland. It's the 5th largest region, most populous, considered part of the geographical region of Greater Agnolia due to being part of Agnolia decades ago. Okay, so it's got ethnic groupings with these people. It's the poorest region and has a stagnant economy. It is also one of the lower populations. So we don't necessarily, while we do want to help grow the economy out here, and infrastructure will help that, we have to focus on places where people actually live first. Which means that, politically speaking, we will probably see opposition from Angland for a while, or Agenland. Lockhaven. The port of Lockhaven loses importance. The latest marine traffic report shows that the port of Lockhaven is no longer the busiest of the Maricopa continent, falling behind to the 3rd position. While this is a negative indicator for our administration, Lockhaven still has the potential to shine again as a major trading center. The port of Lockhaven is the largest port of Sordland and holds enormous importance for the economy, particularly as the main distribution center linking the capital and inner parts of Sordland to the rest of the world. This major port city will hopefully keep supporting a possible economic upturn in the entire country if investment projects succeed. Now, that is important for a few reasons. Obviously, it is connected to some of the more large population centers through highway and rail, but also externally through rail up into Umberg and down into, let's see, where does this thing go? Down into Lesbia, I guess, through here. We do not have one going out here to Welland. Welland said they wanted to have some trade deals with us, but we have neither rail nor highway going that way. We do have an airport in Dare, but I don't know if they've got airports here. So we'll have to. Oh, this is not Umberg. This is Rumberg. Almost had a diplomatic faux pas there. Okay. So yeah, lots to take care of, lots to look at, lots to remember, which for me is going to be a major problem. I will probably need to start making notes. The journal kind of does help give you a little overview of things, but not in depth to the issues and problems that our people will have. These will undoubtedly become more and more important, so I should probably write down things like, infrastructure need in Agenland, as well as over here in Margis, as Lockhaven needs to be rebuilt, and all that sort of thing, as well as our campaign promises, because as far as I can tell, every little decision and interaction will have consequences. We need to be very politically minded in this game. So, anyway, I'm going to end this one here, and we'll begin the fun next time.